Hello and welcome to A5Evening, an all-party roundup. Joining me as always is my co-host, Allie.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Grant.
Hello, Allie.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm excited for tonight's episode. We have Jessy Mullins of Plant Witch Press, and Rory Madden will be joining us as our co-host. Rory, for those of you that don't know, um, you will see his name in most of A5E third-party books. He is the balance consultant to basically the entire A5E community, including my very own book. I had Rory do balance consultant for Corrosive Souls. So he'll be an interesting perspective to have on today. He also did the balance consultant or consulting work for Jessy Mullins' latest book from Plant Witch Press, which we will be covering in our author promotion segment, Out of the Wilds.
Awesome. What are you most excited to hear about tonight?
I just kind of want to, well, a little bit. I want to pick Rory's brain a little bit. I've only ever interacted with both Rory and Jessy over text, so it'll be interesting to pick their brains kind of in person. Jessy is one of my favorite creators in the A5E community. I love her work. Um, Plant Witch Press has put out things like The Kitchen Witch, Toil and Trouble, Hearth and Home. Jessy's style is best described by former guest and friend of the show, Peter Martin, as cottagecore with sudden bursts of horror. So she's fun. She's one of my favorite writers.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just learning about stuff, but I seem to gravitate to all of her work so far.
So
As someone playing a kitchen witch currently, I am very excited to talk and learn more tonight about how she creates all this cool stuff. Shall we
so
bring them in?
yeah. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome everybody to A5 Evening. As we discussed in the intro segment, we have Rory Madden joining us as guest host. If you want to say hello, Rory.
Hey, how's it going?
And then for our author promotion segment and also joining us for the entire episode, we have Jessy Mullins from Plant Witch Press.
Hello.
All right. So, moving on, we're changing up format just a little bit today, folks, to see what works best. We're still a work in progress here, so bear with us. But we are starting with the Mimic Moment, or the MIMO, the third party roundup. And we've had a lot of releases come out in the last between episodes, including Out of the Wilds by Jessy Mullins of Plant Witch Press herself, who is joining us and will be talking about us in the next segment. Next up would be Martial Artistry, which funded on BackerKit by friend of the show, Rachel Williamson, also known as Steampunkette. It ended on the 15th of July, funded pretty well, and will be on Drive Through RPG soon. If you backed it, you should have it now. I got the email just a little bit ago with my copy. And if you missed the crowdfunding funding campaign, it should be on Drive Through RPG soon. I had just talked to Rachel about that. Coming up, we have a few things coming up that'll probably be between this episode and the next. We have a setting book by Awesome Edition, which will be called Salenthia Chronicles, Envoys of the Jade Empire. I just talked to Enzo, and that should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Wrapping up the third party roundup, the MIMO is going to be Single Class Synergy Volume 3 by friend of the show, Peter Martin of Purple Martin Games, which will be either coming out the end of this week or the next week. That will cover, it's the third volume in Peter's Single Class Synergies. This one will cover Adepts, Druids, and Heralds, as well as Rachel's new class from Martial Artistry, the Champion, and third party favorite, the Witch class. There will be 2 more volumes of that series planned. I just talked to Peter today about that. So get excited if you like those books. There are a lot of cool things to check out, feats that really help you live those class fantasies. If you want to hear more about martial artistry, check out our first episode of this show. Rachel was on it and talked a lot about that. As always, I do purchase all of the things that I talk about on this show. The only one that gives me any kind of copy, a comp copy, is Purple Martin Games for services that I do as one of the data gremlins. And special note to everybody for everything, Drive-Thru RPG's Christmas in July sale starts by the time you will hear this. So if you want to fill out your A5E backlog, if you will, I know I got a couple of people that have Corrosive Souls in their wish list, and if I can turn all those wish lists into it, I get a medal. So do it, folks, and fill out the rest of your stuff. That usually doesn't include newer stuff, but it will include older stuff like Corrosive Souls. Anybody have anything to say about anything coming out or that has come out recently?
All I know is I really want to play a Sentinel from Martial Artistry.
Yeah,
Like,
that one is fun.
real bad.
I don't know that I have the brain power to run a Sentinel or play as a Sentinel, because that seems, there are a lot of moving parts there, but it does look like a fun play.
Yeah. I mean, I had a follower when I played a martial that I constantly forgot about, so making the second character an integral part of the class working makes me not forget them.
I mean, fair enough.
Followers are designed to be forgotten about and then remembered at the last minute when, or not, or
like,
forgotten about, and then you just die and they don't help you at all.
Magic items, it's fine.
Yeah.
No,
They appear.
they're basically like mounts where you get to town and then your GM goes, "So where are you stabling your elephant?" And you're like,
Oh yeah.
"Oh, that's right, I have an elephant."
That's right.
Pops back into existence. Yeah, I'm just excited because I worked on some of these, so the single party stuff should be fun. Those were fun to look at, kind of an interesting angle on the class feats.
Oh, you did do work on those. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm working on the other ones. They're going to be sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, and when I say working, just providing feedback and like balance, consultation and stuff like that. Obviously, Peter is doing the bulk of all the design work on this.
How about you, Allie?
Oh man. I feel like so many things. I mean, martial artistry, of course. I love a warcaster. I like to not overthink the spell casting so much. So watch out for that in the future, Grant. That might be my next character.
I will. Again, for those of you that don't know, Allie is one of my players.
Yeah, that helps give it context.
Yes.
I'm just gonna do that to you normally. Don't worry. Perfect. Well, anything else before we move on to our next segment?
Like I said, this past, I guess, little month or so between episodes has been a lot, and it doesn't really show a whole lot of slowing down as far as releases go in the third-party space. These are just the ones that I have immediate like confirmation that they're. I'm hard at work on my next project. It'll be a rescue theme. No, in no small part inspired by my having a 5-year-old and him liking the Paw Patrol. So
Paw Patrol.
Did you say inspired by you having a 5-year-old? Did you say
a 5-year-old who at least used to be fond of Paw Patrol when I got the idea?
Nice. Yeah, I've got a 7-year-old daughter, so
nice. Yeah, you probably know then. Yeah.
Oh, plenty about Paw Patrol and then Peppa Pig.
Sure.
All sorts of
yeah,
fun inspirations.
It's not done the Peppa Pig, but it's also inspired by my love of Mr. Rogers. And look, the book will be titled "Look for the Helper." Look for the helpers, and then the subtitle is "Running Towards Screams," because you people really like the blood and the screams, and you know that just helps move books. So.
Great title.
Hey man, I released Hearth and Home and then turned around and was like, "Hey, here's Bloody Heretics."
Right?
What's up, guys?
Yeah, Jessy is also a big inspiration to me. So, speaking of Jessy, that pretty much wraps up the Mimic moment for this past, and now we are heading into the author's promotion segment. Jessy, would you like to introduce yourself just a little more in detail? Because Jessy is now our basically our focused on author.
Hello, my name is Jessy. I am the person behind Plant Witch Press, the one wearing the witch hat, so to speak. Peter Martin once described my style as cozy with sudden horror, and that is the most apt description that anyone has ever put together for me, ever. So I just kind of took it and ran with it. I am here to make you feel warm and cozy, and then to stab you in the back, or melt the flesh off your bones, or whatever nonsense I happen to come up with.
Awesome. Well, I know I'm super excited to talk to you. I'm playing a kitchen witch currently. I want
Oh
to level
boy.
up so I can use grease fire, speaking of melting people,
Okay.
but
Good old
it'll be a
grease
little while.
fire.
Yeah, good old grease fire, right?
Good old grease
Um,
fire.
But no, Out of the Wilds was awesome. I loved every second of it. And I was wondering if we could just start off by having you give us just a quick kind of synopsis of what to expect from it.
Sure. I mean, Out of the Wilds is kind of a pseudo sequel to Hearth and Home. It's not intended to be like a direct sequel, but there is definitely a through line of me sort of creating a little bit more of that like cozy, I guess, kind of red wall, Humblewood kind of vibe for character options. In that book, I also have a stat block for a CR24 Celestial, Allururu, the Warden of the Forest. And it includes a reprint and an expansion upon a subset of creatures that I actually introduced in the Gate Pass Gazette called Endemic Life. These are just little critters. They're little critters that you can encounter while you're out exploring or as part of an encounter element. Some of them can help you, some of them can hinder you. A trinket crab may pickpocket you every once in a while, but they're just intended to kind of give the world a little bit more life. Like when you go hiking on a trail, you're not every opportunity or every turn you're going to run into a bear or a mountain lion, right? Like,
Not.
Right. That'd be
yeah,
some
and
bad
if you are running into lots of bears and mountain lions, I need you to pick a different trail. Like, seriously, go somewhere else.
safety first.
But,
It's
you know, they're intended to be like, oh, there's a woodpecker or there's a groundhog or something that you just kind of notice and just kind of makes the world feel just a little bit more alive, a little bit more fun. Add some whimsy in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say whimsy. That was the word I was thinking of, and like color to it. I love it. So I think you may have kind of alluded to this, but where do you get some of your inspiration for these things? Like, what has led? Like, are there books, movies, things that have inspired you to create these types of creatures?
Oh, for sure. I'm a media magpie, just like I'm sure a lot of my fellow designers are. I'm always just kind of noticing things here and there, and I'm like, oh, that's fun. Oh, that's interesting. What if I did this? In Out of the Wilds, I have the Visionary Bard, which is a bard archetype who, like, their imagination is so vivid that their imaginary friend literally comes to life and can help them. And that was 100% inspired by the character of Dorothy from Doom Patrol, who has the candle maker who comes to life to protect her in moments when she's in trouble. So I definitely, I'm always pulling from movies, TV shows. I mean, obviously Redwall is a series that is super near and dear to my heart, and has been since I was, knee high to a grasshopper, as my grandmother would say. So that definitely bleeds into things. I love nature. I love plants. I work in horticulture in my day job, so I'll just kind of pulling all of that together like the weird little spider that I am and weaving it into the nonsense that I concoct.
Listen, I love it. I'm glad you're doing this. So I like the weird little spider metaphor.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Grant and I have been debating this. So I liked the badger heritage, but how do you say it? How do you pronounce the name?
I say Melis.
Okay. Which I
Do
think
you
is
say
supposed to, like,
Melis?
Melis. I learned it from an
Melis.
Argentinian man, and when I went to school for zoology. So my way of pronouncing binomial nomenclature is all sorts of messed up because it's a little closer to, I guess, the Romance side of the Romance languages, but
but I feel like we should go with how you say it since
I
I'm
say
getting way ahead of
Melis.
you, Vincent.
Melis.
yeah,
Melis.
Melis. Tomato, tomato.
right.
You know.
And then I saw that so they were like, I can't remember what the wording was, but kind of in tune with death, like caretakers
Mhm.
of death. Where did that, is that something associated with badgers that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, it's a folkloric representation of them. Badgers have been observed to actually hold funerals for some of their deceased, or at least like what we anthropomorphize as funerals. They've over the centuries become associated with death and with passing. And with all of my like critter person heritages, I always try to like find those folkloric or those legendary connections and kind of pull them in, just because that's such a like important part of how we interact with nature culturally, and how they just sort of fit into our own legends and folklore that I think really just helps define them beyond just being like a person in a funny hat.
Yeah.
Which is the peril of a lot of your various different heritages. Not your heritages, because I'm just saying heritages as a whole. You have to avoid the yeah, human in a funny hat, because it's a really easy trap to fall into without even thinking about it.
Well, that's fascinating. I was curious. I thought that might be the case. No, I think that's super cool. You learn something every day.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, then with that, as we're kind of digging maybe a little too into the specifics, what would you say is for players in this book? I mean, there's tons of heritages and cultures and backgrounds. What would you say are some kind of gems for people to take away?
I know a lot of people have been clamoring for something that is like a turtle analogy. Turtles were super popular in O5E, and we haven't really gotten like a turtle analog for A5E. So I decided to take that and make the Tortrum, but they are very, very solidly like tortoise. They're not like tortoise slash turtle. So these guys are very terrestrial. They got a big old shell that gives them natural AC, and if you take a certain Paragon gift, you get to reflect spells back on casters, which is one way to troll your GM.
Which I love to do.
You gotta keep it hidden until they cast a spell on you.
Yeah,
Then you
yeah.
really get them. That's the trick.
Surprise!
Yeah.
I've also let's see, what else did I even put in this book? Let's see, I have
There are archetypes for your
Oh, yeah.
class.
Yeah, there's 6 new archetypes in here, including ironically my first druid,
Yeah, that's
which is
wild to me.
the
That's your first one.
the meadow dancer druid, who sort of takes the frenetic energy of a flower field with all of the pollinators and the rejuvenation, and sort of uses that to their advantage. There's 2 new Bloodblade archetypes in here: the Bewitched, which is the Fey Bloodblade, and the Chlorophyte, who is the plant-themed Bloodblade.
But you got the tailor in there too, right?
Oh yeah, the Tailor. You
I
want
like
you
the
want to
tailor.
you want to be a secret agent? Artificer? You want to transmute your magic items into other items, so that way nobody knows what they are. Taylor, super sneaky.
Ooh.
Live out your James Bond life.
And this is your director's cut version of that, because that appeared in a gate pass, right?
It did. The Tailor and the Tinker, which was another Artificer archetype that appeared with in that same article. Both of those were the very first archetypes that I had ever written. Like I wrote those before I wrote the Kitchen Witch, and I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea. So this is me sort of taking everything that I've learned since I wrote that, and sort of going back and applying all of that knowledge, and Rory's assistance as well, just to kind of make the Tailor a little bit more what I wanted it to be, even like at the point where I wasn't able to get it to where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, Rory, you're great at that, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Again, and what it so you did, like I said, you did do the balance work. I just want to pull away real quick since it's a kind of a natural transition for getting Rory to talk about it. But you did do balance consulting work for Out of the Wilds, like we had said. What was that like? Just what does that look like for you, I guess?
So, it's always fun because a lot of what I'm good at is taking stuff that already exists and kind of just digging into it, making sure I understand it, and then tearing it apart a little bit. So like this one, it's fun because I was looking at these concepts like the tailor, right? And it's like, oh, this is just a cool idea on an artificer. And then in the back of my mind, when I'm reading something like that, I'm always just like, there's kind of two angles. One is I'll see something and I'll try to get a sense of like, what's this trying to hit, right? What are kind of concept or theme is this trying to hit? But also just, are there things that are like a little gribbly or that could be streamlined a little bit, or things that I just look at and I have a question that I don't understand and might want to dig into more. So partly when I'm looking at something like that, I just get excited about, okay, I see what you're going for here, but maybe there's just an angle here that could lead a little tweaking to realize that vision a little bit more. Partly it's like, oh, did you think about this if you take this feat or something and it just totally breaks it? Or way more commonly, like, you could just double that bonus and it'll be fine. It compares to the other stuff, right? That's just a lot of what I do is like kind of dumb math stuff. I'm like, I look at this +1 bonus could be a +2 bonus and it would be totally fine, right? Something
it
like
would
that.
make it more fun, for example.
Yeah. I'm often surprised by how much of it is like me telling someone just to make something bigger or lean into it a little bit more, because I'm used to looking at like source books and finding the broken stuff and being annoyed, like, how did that make it past development? But it's much easier to forget there's so much stuff that you just read over and you ignore like an entire subclass because it doesn't spark enough or it's not quite powerful enough. And so a lot of my feedback ends up being like, yeah, just tweak this or boost this or add a little extra bonus here just to make this a little more appealing.
And we certainly in the community, because we all do talk to each other, we all seem to have a tendency to want to pull back a little bit and make things a little less splashy as far as like power goes, because it's really easy for people to be like, oh well, that's just totally broken or whatever. So we're all very conscious of like wanting to avoid coming off as putting out, I don't know how to say it other than like overpowered slop, I guess.
Sure, yeah. And that's totally like a danger, right? Like any set that anytime you see a game, source books come out, especially third-party source books, and they kind of often break things. And oftentimes that's just a volume thing, is like enough stuff comes out, some of that stuff's going to be broken. But the thing that I've kind of noticed, I have noticed that about this community, and so I just feel a little more comfortable of the level up folks or the A5E folks of being like, I'm going to kind of push it a little bit. And then oftentimes the person will say, well, I don't know if I want to go that far. We'll kind of compromise in the middle. And then like that, I'd say like 80% of my stuff is like pushing the power level or streamlining things a little bit. And only 20% of it is like, oh, oops, there's something totally broken here. Let's push it. Let's lean it in a little bit.
I guess
reel it in a little bit.
Yeah, I guess going to Jessy, I've worked with Rory. Obviously you have too. How do you feel about that kind of having a balanced consultant?
Well, it's fantastic, because when I write things like the tailor, and I'm just like, oh yeah, just transmit me whatever wondrous item, and then he goes, hey, what about a beat of force? And I'm like, what about a beat of force? I didn't think of that. I don't think I just do.
Oh yeah, now I do remember the tailor going through and being like, oh wow, okay, because there was something with the ability to make items that could be one use.
And
I was like, oh wow, there's just a lot of potential here. So it's like this thing that otherwise is totally fine. Suddenly, if you're able to just like kind of at will create, yeah, like a ring of wishes or something, you're like, okay, that's just a whole category of stuff maybe you want to remove or scale back. Yeah.
Yeah, because
No,
like
that was
that was not even like in my mind at
Right.
all. And he was just like the bottle of like Ifriti control or whatever, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
that was
right, that
me.
exists.
Right. I forget if there's a filter. The online tools for Level Up are really useful because you can just filter a lot of stuff. So I remember, I think I was just filtering by consumable, or I forget exactly what, and just going through stuff that looked like it might be a little broken. So
No,
yeah,
and then in the other direction, the reason why Grease Fire is so devastating is because Rory was like, "What if it did this instead?" And I was like, "What if it did that
Right.
instead?"
It's an epic.
nice. I'm trying to remember, where did we settle with Greasefire? What did it end up doing?
That's the one where if you try to pour water on it, it just explodes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, good stuff.
You know, like a real grease
Like a
fire.
real
Right?
reason.
Yeah.
That's right.
I love it.
But yeah, no, having Rory to like sanity check me, or I would love to be a fly on the wall, Rory, when you get my name in your messages and you're just, are you just like, what nonsense is this woman bringing me?
No, no, I love it. I mean, the thing you bring, I mean, I think obviously you do great work, but a thing that you bring, I think, is really thematic, evocative stuff. Like a lot of times I can look at what you have and it just immediately I get what kind of like a thing you want out of an archetype is someone sees it and they're like, oh, that's the thing I wanted to play since I got into role playing, right? And so I see that with a lot of this stuff, especially once I start reading like the first paragraph or something, like the Visionary Bard, for example. You look at it and you're like, oh, this is just so fun. And then you can work together to have a back and forth to make it like sticky or whatever. But all that stuff is already there. And then it's just kind of some nuts and bolts stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Heck yeah, but just like having you in the background being like, hold on, or wait a minute. What if? Because when you're, and Grant could probably speak to this, like when you're in the weeds of designing something, I know I sometimes get tunnel vision,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's like this very obvious thing that's over here to the side that I am just not aware of because I'm too laser focused on whatever's in front of me. So having someone like Rory to be like, well, what about that over there? And you're just like, oh,
Right. And
up that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. I'll pick at that a little bit too. Yeah.
and sometimes it's also just pulling out assumptions. Like sometimes I look at something and I'm like, I bet I know how this person thinks this works, but it's just not currently on the page. So it's kind of teasing that out too. And then once you tease that out, you either figure out what you're going to put in or leave out, but that can be really helpful.
I mean, I think I'm good with my part.
Okay.
What were your questions? I know you had a few.
I do have a couple of questions for Out of the Wild specifically. But first, we can get the logistics part out. It came out this past week, July 14th, so it should be out on Drive Through RPG as we speak. And definitely by the time you get it, I bought my copy as soon as I found out about it. And it currently now has Foundry implementation.
It does. It does as of a couple days ago. The
Wonderful.
lovely volunteers over in the A5E Foundry server sent that over, so that should be packaged, ready to go. I put it on my server. Everything is functioning beautifully as always.
So yeah, if you download it from DriveThru, you will be able to get the PDF as well as the Foundry module. And then, as somebody who used to hold or be tied with you for creating Bloodblade Archetypes, I had created my fair share of that, and as the data gremlin, like certain trends and things pop out, and I just wanted to ask really about the Bewitched Fae and the level 6 archetype for the Bewitched Fae, because it kind of breaks the rules for all the other Bloodblade
Sure.
a little bit, because for those of you that don't know, at level 6, Bloodblades usually get a movement-based ability, and Jessy took and she kind of broke that rule.
I am very much Captain Barbosa. The rules are just guidelines.
Fair
So
enough.
for that one, that level 6 ability, I went back and forth over that so many times. Because originally I was like, well, teleportation is kind of the phase thing, but then that felt like a cop out.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, how can I play with that? And just danced around a bunch of different things, and one of them just got really complicated, and I was just like, okay, hold on. You can have them just give them like a minor mirror image kind of thing. And like in my mind at least, that's like adjacent enough to movement where you now have like you're not teleporting out of the way, you're not immediately moving, you don't go incorporeal like the Grave Walker does, but you now have something that makes you at least a little bit harder to hit, which if anyone's looked at the Bloodblade, you know having them be harder to hit is usually a good thing for everyone.
Yeah, it depends, I guess.
Unless you're trying to
you
nuke
said,
them.
they're like a grenade that you just want to throw into a pack of enemies.
Yeah,
Do not hold on to too close.
Chuck that grenade, or you know maybe they're about to go off and you're just like, man, you're real close to me right now. I wish you were 15 feet that way. But yeah, that was just me trying to find something that was very unique and very Fae-like for that particular archetype that wasn't just like I don't know, man, teleport 30 feet.
And yeah, if there's any archetype that should break a informal rule, it should be the Fey one, right? So
Oh yeah.
Well, any other thoughts about Out of the Wilds? It's lovely. As always, your layout is very, very great.
The art is beautiful.
Thank you.
The art is very good. You didn't. Was this the one that you drew anything for?
The Blossom Ray in the
Okay.
Endemic Life. I contributed that to myself. I don't think I put myself in the image credits. Oops.
Well, there's a teaser for our podcast.
Update coming soon with me crediting myself for my own art. That is another note about the art in Out of the Wilds. The art for the Benefactor Herald is actually a piece that I commissioned from an artist on DriveThruRPG. It's the same artist who provided, who has the stock art for the Taylor Artificer, Vigelio Kaliva on DriveThruRPG. They are wonderful to work with and extremely talented. I gave them the option that if they wanted to use one of the heritages from Hearth and Home as the sort of character art for the benefactor, that they had the opportunity to, and they chose the Servid, which was the very first thing that I ever published in a third party thing. So having that kind of come full circle was really nice, and they did a fantastic job.
Do you have anything that you're currently working on, Jesse?
I've
talk about, or
I've got so many things that I'm noodling around with. I've got Appalachian Mountain Warlocks, and one of the things that I'm currently working on is a slight, I don't want to call it a total rework of the Marshal. The Marshal was the class that actually attracted me to A5E way back when it was on Kickstarter, because I am a 4E goblin, and I loved I love the Warlord. Like, the Warlord was my thing. That was my class. And the Marshal really helps to bring that idea of being a battlefield commander into the 5E sphere. And this sort of reconfiguration of it is just me trying to bring just a little bit more of that Warlord in, just bring a little bit more of that charisma, a little bit more of like, you know, that King Theoden rally to me kind of energy. So just noodling around with that.
That's cool. Yeah,
at some point.
The current Warlord is interesting because he has like 3 attacks around and stuff. He's very much just they are very much like a beefcake. Like, they just get in there and do a lot of damage, and then they kind of have this side gig of helping people. So getting more into the leadership side sounds pretty dope.
Yeah. What more of that charisma? One of my intentions is to actually kind of break the core class a little bit out from being tied to a stronghold, at higher levels. Not that I hate strongholds. I love strongholds. I'm a Minecraft girly. I love base building. But it doesn't fit into every campaign necessarily. So I want to kind of break out the stronghold bits from the core class and then actually pivot those into an archetype instead. So having a martial archetype who's all about having a stronghold and having sort of this base of operations that you're able to function out of, whereas the base class is going to be more about being in the field in the heat of battle, commanding people and making sure that everybody stays alive.
So, moving on from that, we had kind of a pretty big month for the first party, EN Publishing. They launched Pets and Sidekicks, which funded very quickly over on Kickstarter. Link for that will be in the show notes. That is a whole book written by Paul Hughes, kind of expanding out the systems from Monstrous Menagerie 2 for Pets and Sidekicks to level up beside your characters.
That book is going to be such a problem for me.
And
Everything is going to be it's already can we keep it. Now it's just going to be
Right.
can we keep it, but hey, wait, there's actually rules for us to be able to keep it now.
yeah, maybe, that might put the damper on some people's wanting to, can we keep it if there are rules?
Yeah, suddenly now your elephant doesn't just teleport back when you come into town. Now you have the elephant following you around. They're leveling up with you.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're now forced to remember that the elephant needs to eat.
Right.
I actually helped out with that book as well. It was a
Did
fun
you?
one.
Nice.
nice.
I did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
know.
Paul's a good friend of mine, so
Nice.
I work on some degree on a lot of his stuff. Either doing more in the weed stuff, which I did for a portion of that, and then he was like, "Hey, can you just look at all the monsters that I created and point out if anything's like totally broken?"
Right.
And we nabbed a couple of them. There was one that was like had a warlord like ability, could just give someone a free attack, and I was like, "Oh, you could combine that with like a rogue or anyone and just get some really, or like a warlock or whatever, and get some really nasty attacks." So we just removed that ability.
Sure.
That was fun.
There's
That's-
always something. There's always something that you miss
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
or that you don't think of that beat a force.
But yeah, Pets and Sidekicks, I backed it myself. I'm looking forward to digging into that. And like with all ENP Kickstarters and crowdfunding, the PDF will be available basically as the second the campaign wraps. Look forward to that coming. The campaign's running for about a month, I believe. So look forward to getting your hands on that book in August. Also releasing this past break between episodes was Gay Pax Gazette number 41. I did pick up. It's got Thick Skin, the Pachydex Heritage. Speaking of animal folk, this one is your character options for elephant, hippo, and rhino folk. It is culture and heritages. And that is by Andy English, who I believe is a first-time contributor to Gay Pass Gazette. Then we have Fantastic Fortitude class options for Hardy Heroes by Jack Dwyer. And this is basically a collection of new knacks, and then there's also one feat, all focused on character survivability. So all of these knacks are to focus on a character fantasy where you're tough, but you don't necessarily want to be a berserker, although there are options for making your berserkers in this article extra tough. Just a bunch of knacks for several classes in there. I'm always a fan of bringing more knacks into the space.
I like knacks. Yeah.
And Rory wrote some of the knacks for Venture Forth, which is a third-party book by Speaks and Spells, Clark Peterson's publishing imprint. Jessy, I believe, also worked on Venture Forth.
I did.
So we have two of the contributors to the big knack book.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun. Just coming up kind of with off the wall stuff.
Yeah.
Going a little more crazy than like what's in the core book.
Yes, and that book is the one book I will say for anybody, if you do not have it, that book is a must buy. I think Venture Forth is the must buy to get your feet wet into the third party space. And then once you see that, you can collect them all like a Pokemon master.
Gotta catch
Get
them
them
all,
all.
man.
Yeah.
That's moving on from that. Next article, or in Gay Pass Gazette 41, House Fairies, The Wrathful Brownie by Jagger A. Dillon, member of the third party space as well, hangs out in that secret Discord that we all are in. And that one's new Fey creatures made A5E style, so you get lore, signs, behaviors for brownies and boggarts.
I just love that Jagger is like single-handedly filling out the entire Fae catalog
Yeah.
in A5E. He's just
Made it his
busy little
mission.
bee.
Yeah, I mean stuff like that's really useful. Like whenever I DM'd a level up game for probably over 2 years, and it had a heavy Fey component, and I'm just like, oh, there's like 6 or 7 monsters to work with, and then you're starting to like repurpose other stuff. So just even a couple source books go a long way with stuff like that.
The final article is by Anthony Alipio, Artifacts of the Chaotic Mind. And this was a whole article about a new magic artifact, Talizim's Tome of Modular Misadventures. And it's a book artifact that adds a bit of chaos and allows character to enter into the book's world. Alpha Star is probably going to launch soon because Pets and Sidekicks is currently going on. It won't launch now because the NP does not launch competing crowdfunding campaigns with itself, which I think is probably a pretty good practice. But Alpha Star will probably launch after Pets and Sidekicks wraps, I'd imagine pretty soon, and that is the quarterly magazine focused on sci-fi and science fantasy, and that will be launching. That wraps up the first party roundup for the first half of July, last half of June. And then we're trying something a little bit different this time. I actually got some questions from viewers and listeners. First one is... go ahead. Sorry.
Okay,
yep.
I will ask this one.
Yep.
It's from Nir, who you might remember from our first episode. And his question is, how much playtesting do you do for content before you feel like it's ready?
And that question was directed...
For everybody.
Well, yeah, that question was directed specifically to Jessy and me. Rory, you're also a designer of those. You can probably fill in some of that as well. But Jessy is our guest. You can go with that, I guess, if you want to.
Sure. The short answer is not a lot. And that's the short answer. The long answer is for a couple of different reasons. One is that even if I was able to pull together a group of people who were willing and able to dedicate the amount of time and effort that it takes to play test something, at the end of the day, they give me all of that feedback back, right? All of their comments, all of that. Plant Witch Press is at its core a one-woman operation. It's just the old me. And I'm already having to do all of the design work, all of the writing, all of the layout and the finding of the stock art and making sure that my licenses for fonts and textures and photos or images and all of that are all in a line. Taking all of that feedback, as helpful or as useful as it would probably be, synthesizing all of that, parsing out what I'm going to use and what I'm not going to use it's just a lot of work. And as much as I would love for this to be my full-time job, this is all that I do. The reality is I have an actual full-time day job. This is just my fun millennial chronic I need to monetize my hobby kind of thing. that I do. And sort of secondly to that is that if I'm having the same people who are playtesting over and over and over again, you sort of get yourself into this data echo chamber, right? You know, at the end of the day, as much as I and everyone in this conversation and people who are loving this love A5E, this is a very, very small community in comparison to something like fifth edition or Pathfinder 2E, where it's, you know, hundreds of people who are potentially playtesting something. So it's just really hard as a small third party creator to be able to get that feedback, apply it in a way that isn't, you know, actively uh, exhausting to the point and on top of everything else that you're doing. And then also getting the breadth of feedback where you're not just catering to a certain group of people who are interacting with the system. It's like it's not that I think that I'm above any kind of critique that could come out of playtesting. It's not that I don't think playtesting is valid. It's just that it's for me as little old me implementing all of that is just not feasible at this point. So, you know, I do my best. Rory checks me
Yep, and that's why we
on all of my
worried. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, on my side, I try to play that role just a little bit, which is not actually playtesting, because playtesting always comes up with stuff in the wild. But I agree that it's the value of small team playtesting would be just like, does this feel fun or something, right? But the value of like, and you're not going to be able to organize, like you said, the dozens or hundreds of people that you would need to get the actual data that would tell you like, oh, this thing isn't working, or what's the sentiment around this mechanic. You know, like you see Wizards of the Coast will do exhaustive surveys and 100 rounds of playtests, and they still release stuff that, like, for a variety of reasons, there's going to be like broken stuff or weird stuff. That's just how role-playing games work, right? The only other thing where I've personally found playtesting useful is more kind of systemic things. So like when I was working, when Paul was working on the challenge rating system for the Level Up DMG and the Monster Manual, we did a series of playtests, and these were not exhaustive. It was literally the two of us jumping on and playing through some fights. But he was like, Rory, can you put together the most boring D&D team that you could imagine? Like a champion fighter, because this was pretty early days, so the level up classes weren't fully defined, like a stock wizard. Make them good, but not totally optimized, just like they're solidly built. So it was like 4 or 5 characters. And we did a few combats at each of those levels just to feel out like, does this feel like a deadly encounter? Does this feel like an easy encounter? Did you feel like you used up some meaningful resources? I think limited playtesting, even if you have a small scale, can be useful in that. But it's just so logistically so hard to do it. And then obviously you can, like, Level Up in general was put out in the wild, and you get some feedback that way, right? But it's, yeah, for third-party products, it's like doing playtesting is just it's just a huge logistical challenge, right?
it's so hard. Like, I mean, and even if I just throw them at my players, you know, I run games for my friends and I love them and I respect them because they're my friends and they love and respect me because we're friends. So even if I gave them something that was horribly broken, they don't want to make my life
Right.
harder as a GM because we're all in this together as friends, right? So it's just
Wow, those are some really respectful friends to play.
I gave one of these players I gave one of these players a staff that had silvery barbs on it. That's how much I trust
Wow.
my friends.
Yeah, man. Wow.
So
One of those.
Yeah.
yeah, and me, I throw little chunks of things at my groups, whether they don't know usually if they are playtesting something. I will introduce something specifically like magic items or the like. I will just throw them in, see how they kind of work in the wild. but like Jesse said, I run games for my friends. I'm not a professional GM by any means. I just I run games when I can, and for the people that I want to run games for, and I will throw ideas in there, kind of noodle with them a little bit to see how they react. I either run a table with 3 to 7 people, so I get a lot of perspectives and things like that. And people, they're all pretty different, even though they all are part of the same group of friends. But they all have different. They're coming at it from different, backgrounds and experience with tabletop role playing games. But they usually don't know. Sometimes I'll let them know if something makes it in. Again, I only have the one release that's currently out right now, but I let them know the things in there that I did play test on.
Nice.
And I gave some of the features in for some of my Ooze themed Bloodblade archetypes to monsters to kind of see how they work against players, more than having a player use it, and kind of like did that in the wild. And then I hired Rory to look at it too, and that helped a lot. And then as an author in the A5E third party community, we're all on the various discords, and people are not necessarily shy about critiquing or criticizing our work. And there is a difference between critique and criticism, but we are very receptive to hearing people's good takes and takes, and then maybe even updating as we need to. I had to update Corrosive Souls because one of the paragraphs I had just didn't make sense. It got through me, it got through my editor, and then when a player got it in their hands, they're like, "What does this mean?" I was like, "Oh wow, yeah, that doesn't make any sense." So, it's that kind of thing, and being part of the community like that, I think it goes a long way to kind of getting that playtesting, what people want, what people think they want from a playtesting, without getting things that are like focus group to death. For example, Nira, I hope that kind of answers your question. We all do a bit, kind of, and then we mostly hire Rory.
The nice thing about a lot of third-party products is they are PDFs. So
Yep.
if something really does need another pass, obviously you want to be giving a finished product, but
Absolutely.
if something really goes wrong, you can fix it, and it won't like make someone sad because they have a physical book that they can't use anymore or whatever.
Errata is also a thing that exists. I know.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, whenever I'm playing a role-playing game and new errata drops, I get super excited because I'm like, oh, either they fix something that I know is overpowered, or sometimes they buff something that like wasn't very viable before, and it's like more options, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, like video games get to have patches that come out, right? Why is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then we have one more question from Selganor on the EN World Forum. Specifically, this one is addressed to Rory, because I think this person is making their own archetype. Any hints on balancing the features of a new archetype? And I mean, that's a pretty broad question. So it's like a really broad question.
No, it's not. It's not too bad. Like, because the nice thing about an archetype compared to like, so there's a lot of stuff, right? There's different things, right? Archetypes are probably one of the easier things to look at because you have at least 3 other examples to compare them to, and often not more than 20 or whatever, right? Like, you don't have 50. Magic items are sometimes a nightmare because I'm like, oh, I have to remember what all the magic items are and sift through this massive list. An archetype, oh, okay, you're doing this class, I'll go familiarize myself quickly with these archetypes, the base ones that came with the core book or whatever, and maybe some other new ones. And then I can literally do like a comparison and kind of like, Jesse, you talked about, a lot of archetypes have things at specific levels. Oh, this is when you get, the first thing is usually kind of an archetype defining feature. So you can compare to those and be like, is it like kind? Does it kind of feel like the right kind of thing? And is it the right kind of power level, or should it be adjusted. So that's super helpful. Is like, is this something I would expect to see at level 3, for example? And then where it can be tougher is like, for example, the Berserker, right? Through talking, and especially talking to Peter about some of his archetypes, right? I would be comparing the Berserker to what's the one? There's the one that gives you elemental bonus to all your damage. It's just like one of the most powerful archetypes in the whole game, right?
The Tempest.
Yeah, the
Berserker.
Tempest. And I'd be like, oh, this feels a little weak compared to the Tempest. And he was like, Rory, we can't use the Tempest as you have to use something else as the benchmark. And that's something I realized is like, and this is something that my friend Paul also focused on is that I've tried to use as a general principle, is don't try to make something that hits like the 95th percentile in power. Aim for the 80th percentile. Like, it's good. Aim for something that's strong and people will be excited about, but not the most powerful. It should never be the most powerful. If you're making a third-party thing, that archetype should never be the most powerful one, unless you personally feel that the class and the archetypes are especially weak, which there might be some that would fit that bucket. For the most part, you're like, okay, what are the top 1 or 2? Okay, great. Let's go a little below that and focus on variety and cool things that aren't just pure power. So that's kind of another aspect there. And then just the other angle is like anything else, you just try to look at it from the perspective of like, is this just fundamentally gonna break the game, or is it interesting? You do want to make sure any ability you're giving out will be usable and fun. So many times I see abilities and I'm like, this is cool and thematic. It's going to come up once, like literally once a game, not a game, like once a whole campaign. And that you just can't have an ability that you can have that ability, just make it streamlined and then have another ability that goes along with it if you're really in love with it or something, right? So that's another angle. That's kind of a test I try to do, is like, ideally most of these abilities would come up at least a couple times a session, or once a fight, or once really meaningfully in a social encounter or something like that. And I guess the final thing would be almost all archetypes and level up balance a mix of the different pillars, particularly like exploration, social, and combat. So if you're looking at your archetype, and it's easy to go either way with this, and it's all combat, then it's probably going to be a little bland. You should try to at least fit in a few ways to give expertise dice or a cool, fun social ability. And then if you're looking through and you're like, oh, where's the meat? That's something a player's going to be doing too. They might be like, these are all cool abilities. I want something that like at least has some utility in combat, because at the end of the day, these are games where combat, even if you do one combat a session or one combat every other session, it's still going to take up like 2 hours. Like, it's going to be a huge chunk of whenever it comes up, right? It's going to be a huge part of the game, even if it's like, oh, this is a game where we do one combat every so often. Well, when that combat comes out, it's going to be this massive part of that session. So obviously you do want some abilities that make you feel powerful in those areas, right? So those are my broad recommendations.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, some of the, and then I would say, just as a little addendum for that 80, or go shoot for 80, unless it's an archetype feature you get at level 20. Like, I think Heralds get their archetype feature at level 20, so just go nuts with the capstone feature.
What was that at level 20?
Heralds, I believe, get their archetype feature at level 20, and I would say capstone
features,
capstone. Just especially at level 20 capstone feature, go nuts.
Go wild. Yeah, that's another thing I see is like, yeah, around level 3 or 6, I'm way more careful.
Sure.
Even by level 14, I'm like, we could go a little wild here,
right,
guys. Like, the campaign, the DM already has their hands full. Like, a cool ability at level 14 is probably not going to break the game. And then level 20, you can almost do whatever you want. Almost no one plays at that level. It's almost just a cool thing that's on a piece of paper that gets you excited.
It's just like, ooh.
Yeah, like I almost don't care. It could almost do anything.
But yeah, I remember when you were working with me on Corrosive Souls for getting the level 18 features even.
Right.
We just had to dial those up because I was like, well,
yeah, you can just go pretty crazy. Yeah. Once you hit 16 or 17 is probably the point where I'm like,
it's like,
well, you're casting the Wizards casting like Wish, and they've been casting Simulacrum for a while.
Right.
Like they've just been cloning themselves. Don't worry too much about it. Like, don't make it totally insane. Make it somewhat comparable, but like, yeah, you can let loose a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. If anyone listening runs to level 20 and they have a Bloodblade in their party, I do not apologize for anything.
Nice.
I apologize for nothing.
Oh yes, our ending question. So it looks like we have a theme today, but I want to hear everybody's favorite either character you've had in the past or maybe character you would play, but forest themed, since we, Out of the Wilds is our theme today.
Ooh.
And then if you don't have a character because you're like me and like our forever GM, maybe a favorite NPC that you
Or who you would play.
or who you would.
It's open. We're flexible.
My favorite character I ever played. He was tangentially related to being woodsy and actually started as a blood hunter, and then eventually reclassed into a herald rogue. But because he was a blood hunter originally, he started out with proficiency in alchemist tools. And me, if I have a proficiency in something when I'm creating a character, I have to like have a reason why they have a proficiency in that toolkit. So, he was nobility. He was kind of a pretty boy. So, he used his alchemist tools to create like lotions and soaps and everything to keep him looking fresh. And because he was nobility, he also used floriography, which for those of you who aren't familiar, it's the language of flowers from the Victorian period. So he would arrange bouquets of flowers and give them to people, and then they would get to roll to see if they could figure out what the secret encoded message was. I use that to troll my GM a lot. Particularly with people that he didn't really like. And I would just be like, yeah, it's these flowers. And then he would have, I sent him a link to a translation thing. And he would have to sit there and be like, okay.
My favorite, this is forest theme, right? Forest theme character.
Jungle.
Yeah.
Druids.
I think this was 2001, and it was the EverQuest tabletop RPG. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that one. It was a 3.25, like third edition version of EverQuest, where they did almost a literal translation of the game. Like they just did their best just to capture like literally every spell and stuff. So I played a ranger in that. I forget his name, but it was over AOL Instant Messenger. Like there was no talking. It was all text. It was super fun. I got into a million arguments with the DM, but that's just how life is. And they had this crafting system where you could craft arrows and bows. So I made I had like a spreadsheet of stupid arrows that I'd crafted. And like I kept upgrading my bow, and I was making like 3 or 4 attacks around. And the DM had a thing where whenever you rolled a 1, you accidentally like shot your friend, like if he was in combat with the guy, even if I had the feat that said that shouldn't happen, which pissed me off. But it was also hilarious because every combat there was like an Ixar, like a lizard man fighter just going away, and every combat I looked so confident I'd hit him like at least twice, right, with arrows. So he'd be plucking out the arrows, just giving me the side eye, and then he was just like covered in dirt. It was a campaign that was like super gritty in that we were literally in the woods for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 sessions, maybe more, doing a ton of just EverQuest style like fights. Like, here's 7 guys, you have to fight them. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is just like playing EQ. And I literally ran out of arrows. Like I probably carried 60 arrows with me and just ran out of them. And I would try to recover them. We'd do the rules for like 50-50 shot. So I literally ran out of arrows, and by the end I was just attacking people with like a great sword. It was just a lot of fun. It was a fun character. And it was a, goofy campaign. I love old school, older campaigns, thinking back to those and how,
especially if
it's been a while since I've done a text-only campaign,
Yeah.
Gonna make a note here. Add more ridiculous arrows.
Yeah.
To A5E.
I gotta love art. an arrow crafting system.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah, you want to do that? 'Cause-
Well, I would say my first character that I played with you was a druid, so easy, right?
Sure.
If we're going forest themed. And I don't know if anybody has seen The Boys, but I essentially stole Starlight's backstory a little bit. So it was a little bit more of an aggressive. I think it was a Circle of the Moon druid. I'd have to look. It's been a while, but pretty much if I could be a bear, I would be a bear.
Was this Faustina?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what my wife did in her game. Like the only campaign I've ever run with my wife where it wasn't a one shot. She probably played 5 or 6 sessions. She would just turn into a bear immediately every fight. Yeah,
Fantastic.
just go to town.
That is a valid strategy in Baldur's Gate 3. You just turn
Oh,
into an
yeah.
owlbear and
Yeah.
just drop yourself on
Yeah.
whoever, they're dead. Great.
It's like every time I cast a spell, it never worked. So then I was like, fine, I'll be a bear.
Just turn into a bear.
I was
yeah.
trying not to do that today, but
And bears
I-
are totally OP, at least at level 2 or 3. They're like
Oh, yeah.
totally
Yeah.
broken.
Yeah,
You're just out damaging everyone
exactly.
for a few levels, and then they fall off a little bit, but that's
That's it.
okay.
If I could turn into a bear in real life, I would. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
And
It's a
hybrid.
good life. Good way to
Well,
live.
that was an Arctic-based campaign, so I think you were a polar bear a lot of the time,
Yeah,
weren't
polar
you?
bear,
Yeah.
almost
Nice.
exclusively.
Yeah.
I was a cheetah at one point.
Oh,
which-
you were a cheetah at one point too. That was, she was from a warmer place.
Yeah. I liked playing, all the different animals with that character.
I think my favorite. So NPC, I'll have to do an NPC because I've never played a foresty character, which is wild to me. But I guess I'm mostly.
So you've never been a player in an RPG?
Oh no, I've played, just never in a
Okay.
forest. It's just a,
Okay, got it.
forest adjacent. It's usually I play and run at least semi-urban camps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I am from Chicago originally, so I know city, I guess. But from that campaign with Faustina, that
Are you
druid.
gonna say the tree?
Oh, I could say the tree.
Okay.
Steve.
Yeah.
The
That's the can I keep him?
Yeah,
thing.
the awakened tree that just had a bunch of blades tied to all of its limbs and just kind of spun around and was a very proud town guard. That was fun. And then I was also going to say Norsu, the mammoth, which
yeah.
I've lifted from Rime of the Frostmaiden, I believe. We weren't running Rime of the Frostmaiden, but I lifted this mammoth who was awakened in like a sense of grief because it's giant. Spoilers for Rime of the Frostmaiden, the campaign that came out ages ago, but an awakened mammoth, and he talked with a preposterously high-pitched voice, and he ended up moving to the town to become the town's elementary school teacher. This just
love
awakened
this.
mammoth, and he ended up
Nice.
was dating the town guard. It was a delight.
An honest life.
Yeah.
Yeah, an honest life. But it's just I loved role playing Norse. It was just a real fun weirdo.
I probably
Nice.
would have learned long division way faster if a mammoth taught me.
Right?
Right?
You'd be whacked.
Whoa. But yeah, those are some of our favorite, at least nature adjacent themed characters and forest characters. I gotta roll up a druid or something to at least play it.
Can roll up a meadow dancer.
Yeah,
Float like a butterfly,
go.
sting like a bee.
that's right.
Yeah.
The last time we played, I had somebody run for me, and we were in a forest. I was a very urbane vox savant, and that did not go well at all. So,
Yeah, we struggled a bit.
yeah, that was bad. It was a bad place. Yeah, you can do all this cool stuff if your enemies can understand you. They're all mostly beasts. I'm in real trouble.
Nice.
So, well, thanks for joining us tonight on A5 Evening. Jessy, are there places where people can find you? I have your links that I'm going to post in the show notes, but anywhere that you'd like to point people to specifically, out of the wilds, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Drive Through RPG. You can find all 5 of my books.
Hey,
5. Available there. You also can sometimes catch my name popping up in the Gay Pass Gazette every once in a while. I'm also on Blue Sky, technically, but I'm really bad at social media, guys. So, like, unless you tag me in something directly, I never see it. And then, of course, I am lurking on pretty much every A5E adjacent Discord server and the Ian World Forum. So if you need me, you know where to find me.
Perfect. How about you, Rory?
You can look me up on LinkedIn, the classic networking site, Rory Madden. You'll probably be able to find me there.
Have that link
If
in
you're
the show
going,
notes.
if you're going to Gamescom, hit me up. Happy to meet up there in Cologne. And then on Discord, if you do want to hit me up, you can. I have the longest Discord name ever. It's Rory Alexander Farrell Madden. So
And it'll be
yeah,
in the
there
show
you go.
notes.
Say that
Nice.
5 times fast.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I can because it's my name. But,
That's right.
I'm used to it.
And everything we talked about, again, we'll have links to it all in the show notes, either the first party stuff, the Mimo links, anywhere you can find our great guests from tonight. You can find our links also included in the show notes. My storefront on drive-through as well at Broken Synapse Press. You can find the A5E data sheet, which is now being run by me, friend of the show, Jim Temple, and Jen. And Jen will be a future guest here coming up soon as well. You can also find us on Blue Sky, where I do have a starter pack of all the A5E people that are on Blue Sky, which includes you, Jesse. So if you've gotten any new followers recently, that's because I put you on a starter pack.
That's entirely because of you. You take all credit for that.
Fair enough. All right. And you can also find us on Instagram at
An A5 Evening.
an A5Evening, _A5Evening. All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will see you next time. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Awesome.
Bye.